I was folding my 7-year-old grandson Zion's Spider-Man shirt when my phone buzzed on the couch. It was a text from my daughter-in-law, Brittany. My heart did that little skip it always did when I saw her name, hoping maybe this time it would be something warm, something kind. Maybe a thank you for the 3 nights in a row I had watched the kids while she went out with her friends. The text said, "Need you to watch the kids starting Monday, 3 weeks. I'm going to Dubai with my girls. Marcus is working. You don't do anything anyway." I read it twice, then 3 times. Each time those last 6 words felt like a slap across my face. You don't do anything anyway. I am Lorraine Mitchell. I am 65 years old. I raised my son Marcus by myself after my husband Jerome died in a car accident when Marcus was only 8. I worked double shifts as a nurse at County General for 27 years. I put Marcus through college. I taught him how to be a good man, a faithful husband, a loving father. And when he married Brittany 5 years ago, I opened my heart to her like she was my own daughter. But somewhere along the way, I became invisible to her. I became nothing. Let me tell you how it started, because it didn't begin like this. Nothing ever does. 2 years ago, Brittany called me crying. She was pregnant with their 3rd baby, little Elijah. She was overwhelmed. Marcus worked long hours as an accountant, trying to provide for his growing family. Zion was in kindergarten. Amara was 3 and wild as the wind. Brittany needed help. "Mama Lorraine," she said, her voice soft and sweet like honey. "I don't know what I'd do without you. You're such a blessing. Could you watch the kids just for a few hours tomorrow? I have a doctor's appointment." Of course I said yes. What kind of grandmother would I be if I didn't help my own family? Those few hours turned into full days, then overnights, then weekends. The requests came faster and faster, like rain turning into a storm. At first, Brittany would ask nicely. She would thank me. She would bring me my favorite lemon pound cake from the bakery on 5th Street. But after Elijah was born, something changed in her. The pleas and thank yous disappeared. The requests became demands. The sweetness turned sour. "I need you here by 6 a.m., she would text. "The kids are staying with you this weekend. We need a break. Pick up Zion from school every day this week. I'm busy." I never said no. How could I? These were my grandbabies. Zion with his gap-toothed smile and his questions about everything. Amara with her thick braids and her love for singing gospel songs she learned at church. Baby Elijah with his chubby cheeks and the way he reached for me every time I walked in the room. I loved them more than my own life. But Brittany started treating me like I was her employee. No, worse than that. Like I was her servant. She would drop the kids off without proper supplies. No diapers for Elijah, no snacks for the older kids. Sometimes she wouldn't tell me she was coming until she was already at my door. My best friend from church, Miss Geneva, noticed it first. She lived 3 houses down from me in our quiet neighborhood on the south side. One evening, she came over and found me giving all 3 kids baths, making them dinner, and doing a load of their laundry. "Lorraine, baby, when was the last time that girl said thank you?" Miss Geneva asked, her hands on her hips. She was 72 and didn't bite her tongue for anyone. I didn't have an answer. "And where is she right now while you're doing all this?" I checked my phone. Brittany had posted on social media 30 minutes ago. She was at a spa with her girlfriends. Full manicure, pedicure, massage. The caption said, "Self-care Sunday, finally getting me time." It was Tuesday. "That girl is using you," Miss Geneva said flatly. "And you're letting her." But what could I do? If I said no, I wouldn't see my grandbabies. Brittany had made that clear one time when I said I couldn't watch them because I had a dentist appointment. "That's fine, Mama Lorraine," she had said, her voice ice cold. "I guess we'll just figure it out on our own. The kids were asking about you, but I'll tell them you're too busy." The guilt ate me alive. I canceled my appointment. Marcus didn't see what was happening, or maybe he didn't want to see it. Whenever I tried to talk to him about it, he would sigh and say, "Mama, Brittany's under a lot of stress. The kids are a handful. You know how it is. Can't you just help us out? Help out. Like I wasn't already giving them everything I had. My pension from the hospital wasn't much, but I spent it on the kids. New shoes when theirs wore out. School supplies. Clothes. Food to keep my pantry stocked for when they were with me. I stopped going to my book club at church because Wednesday nights became permanent babysitting night. I stopped taking my water aerobics class at the community center because Brittany needed me to watch the kids during that time. My own doctor appointments got canceled and rescheduled so many times that the receptionist started calling me by my first name with pity in her voice. Then came the text about Dubai. 3 weeks, 21 days. And that comment, "You don't do anything anyway." I sat on my couch in my small living room, surrounded by the toys I bought, the books I read to them, the photos on my walls of family memories I cherished. My house smelled like the lavender potpourri I kept in a bowl on the coffee table and the remnants of the dinner I had just cooked. You don't do anything anyway. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. I was too strong to break. But cracked. And through that crack, something new started growing. Something that looked like dignity. Something that felt like enough is enough. I called Marcus. He answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Hey, Mama. What's up? I'm in the middle of something." "Did you know Brittany's going to Dubai for 3 weeks?" "Yeah, she mentioned it. Some girls' trip. She deserves a vacation, Mama. She works hard with the kids." I almost laughed, but it would have come out bitter. "And she expects me to take the kids for 3 weeks straight?" "Well, yeah. I mean, you're retired. You have the time. And the kids love staying with you." There it was again, the assumption that my time meant nothing, that my life existed only to serve theirs. "Marcus, baby, I love those kids more than anything. You know that. But 3 weeks? Did Brittany ask me? Did she check if I had plans? Mama, don't start. You always do this. You say yes and then you complain about it later. Just tell her no if you don't want to do it." My son, my baby boy, the child I raised to be respectful and kind, he sounded just like his wife now. "She didn't ask me, Marcus. She told me. She sent me a text saying I don't do anything anyway, so I should watch the kids." Silence on the other end. Then, "She didn't mean it like that, Mama. You're being sensitive. Look, I gotta go. We'll talk later." He hung up. I sat there holding my phone, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. I felt alone, not lonely. I had my church family. I had Miss Geneva. I had my sisters who lived in Atlanta. But alone in the understanding that my own son couldn't see what was happening to me. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed, the one I used to share with Jerome before God called him home 15 years ago, and I thought about everything. I thought about how I had given up pieces of myself, one by one, trying to be the perfect grandmother, the perfect mother-in-law, the perfect help. But I had forgotten to be Lorraine. Just Lorraine. A woman who deserved rest, who deserved respect, who deserved to be asked, not told. At 3 a.m, I got up and made myself some chamomile tea. I opened my laptop at the kitchen table and did something I had been avoiding. I opened my calendar and counted. In the last year, I had watched my grandchildren for a total of 173 days. That's more than half the year, not including the hours I watched them and drove them home the same day. If I counted those hours, it would be even more. I looked at my bank statements. I had spent over $4,000 on things for the kids. Diapers, formula, clothes, shoes, food, birthday presents, Christmas presents, school supplies. Brittany had never offered me a dime. I opened my text messages and scrolled through them. Request after demand after demand. Not one thank you in the last 6 months. Not one. And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. It was a text from 3 months ago. Brittany had sent me a message at 2 a.m. "Need you to take the kids tomorrow. Emergency came up." I had taken them. I had canceled my plans with my sister who was visiting from Atlanta. I had missed her birthday dinner. But now, sitting at my kitchen table at 3 a.m., I decided to look at what Brittany had posted on social media that same day. There she was. At a concert, not an emergency. A concert with her friends. She had lied to me. I scrolled further. There were more, so many more. Taking the kids to you because I have a work thing. She was at brunch with friends. Emergency babysitting needed. She was getting her hair done. Really stressed, need a break. She was shopping at the mall, bags from expensive stores in every photo. She had been lying to me for months, maybe longer, using me. And I had been so desperate to see my grandbabies, so desperate to be needed, that I hadn't seen it. The crack inside me grew wider. I spent the rest of the night doing something I should have done long ago. I started documenting everything. I took screenshots of every text message. I printed them out. I organized them by date. I made a spreadsheet of every time I had watched the kids, how long, what I had been told versus what had actually been happening. When the sun came up on Saturday morning, I had a folder 2 inches thick. Miss Geneva came over around 9 with fresh biscuits. She took one look at my face and sat down without saying a word. I showed her everything. "Sweet Jesus," she whispered, flipping through the pages. "Lorraine, this girl has been running a game on you." "I know. What are you going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? What was I going to do? I thought about just refusing, saying no to the Dubai trip. But then Brittany would just find another way to manipulate me. She would use the kids as weapons. She would tell Marcus I was being difficult. She would poison my grandbabies against me over time. No. If I was going to do this, I had to do it right. "I'm going to say yes," I told Miss Geneva. Her eyes went wide. "Girl, have you lost your mind?" "No. For the first time in 2 years, I think I'm finding it." I pulled out a fresh piece of paper and started writing. "I'm going to watch those kids for 3 weeks, but I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to document every single thing." "Document for what?" I looked at my friend. "For when she tries to come back and do this again. For when she tries to take those babies away from me out of spite. I'm building a case, Geneva, because this ends now. One way or another, this ends." Miss Geneva was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled slow and wide. "You need a good lawyer? You know one?" "My nephew. Jerome Washington. Graduated top of his class from Howard. He handles family law cases. Good man. Goes to First Baptist on the north side." I nodded. "Set up a meeting." "You got it. When?" "Before Brittany leaves for Dubai." That Monday morning, Brittany dropped off all 3 kids at 6 a.m. She didn't knock. She just opened my front door. I had given her a key years ago, and herded the children inside. She was wearing a designer tracksuit and carrying a Louis Vuitton bag. "Here are the kids," she said, not looking at me. She was typing on her phone. "I need you to keep them until the 28th. That's 3 weeks. Marcus will be working late most nights, so don't bother him." "Brittany, can we talk for a minute?" "Can't. My flight leaves at noon and I still need to get my nails done. Everything they need is in the bag." She gestured to a small duffel bag that wouldn't last 3 days, let alone 3 weeks. "I'll need money for groceries, diapers, anything else they—" She finally looked up from her phone and her eyes were cold. "You have your pension. You don't do anything else. Figure it out. That's what grandmothers do." And then she left, just like that. The door closed behind her and I heard her designer heels clicking down my front steps. Zion looked up at me with his big brown eyes. "Is Mama mad at us, Grandma?" My heart broke into 1,000 pieces. I knelt down and pulled all 3 of my grandbabies into my arms. "No, baby. Mama's not mad at you. Grandma loves you so much. We're going to have a good 3 weeks together, okay?" Amara hugged my neck. "I love you, Grandma. You're the bestest." If only her mother thought so. That afternoon, while the kids napped, I met with Attorney Jerome Washington at a coffee shop near my house. He was a tall, handsome man in his early 40s, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. He listened to my story without interrupting. He looked through my folder of evidence, his expression growing more serious with each page. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said finally, "I'm going to be honest with you. What your daughter-in-law is doing is called exploitation of elderly family members. It's more common than people think." "I'm not that old," I said, but I smiled a little. He smiled back. "You're also being financially exploited and emotionally manipulated. The fact that she's lied to you repeatedly, used you as free childcare without compensation or even basic respect, and has now left her children with you for 3 weeks without proper support. That's significant." "What can I do?" "Well, that depends on what you want to happen. Do you want to maintain a relationship with your son and grandchildren?" "Of course, I love them. This isn't about them." "Then we need to be strategic. We need to protect you, set boundaries, and make sure this pattern stops. But we also need to do it in a way that doesn't blow up your family, if we can help it." We talked for 2 hours. By the time I left, I had a plan. It wasn't pretty. It would be uncomfortable. But it was necessary. The first week with the kids went smoothly, but it was exhausting. I was doing everything alone: cooking, cleaning, helping with homework, breaking up fights, changing diapers, giving baths, reading bedtime stories. I fell into bed every night aching and tired. But I documented everything: every diaper I bought, every meal I cooked, every load of laundry, every time Zion cried because he missed his mama, every time Amara asked why Daddy didn't come see them, every time baby Elijah got fussy and I had to walk him around the house for hours because he was teething and Brittany hadn't left me any medicine for him. I took photos. I kept receipts. I wrote everything down in a journal Attorney Washington had given me. Marcus called twice that first week. Once to ask how the kids were, and once to ask if I could do his laundry and bring it to his house because Brittany usually did it and he didn't know how. I said no to the laundry. He sounded shocked. Brittany didn't call at all, but her social media was lit up with photos: Dubai hotels, desert safaris, shopping, fancy restaurants. She was living her best life while I was living hers. On day 12, something happened that changed everything. It was a Wednesday afternoon. I had just picked up Zion from school and we were walking to my car. Amara was holding my hand, singing a song from church. Baby Elijah was in his stroller, babbling happily. A woman approached us in the parking lot. She was young, maybe 30, with a professional way about her. She wore a badge on a lanyard. "Excuse me, are you Lorraine Mitchell?" she asked. My heart started pounding. "Yes. Can I help you?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Sarah Chen with Child Protective Services. I need to ask you a few questions about these children." The world tilted sideways. "CPS? What? Why?" She glanced at the kids, then back at me. "We received a report. Can we talk somewhere private?" My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the kids into the car. Miss Geneva happened to be driving by. God works in mysterious ways, and I flagged her down. She took the kids to her house for ice cream while I sat in my car with this CPS worker and listened to the most shocking words I had ever heard. "We received an anonymous report that you've been keeping 3 children against their parents' will and that you may be neglecting them. The caller said the children's mother is desperately trying to get them back, but you refuse to return them." I couldn't breathe. "That's a lie. That's a complete lie. Their mother is in Dubai. She left them with me. And then it hit me like a truck. Brittany had called CPS on me. While she was in Dubai, living it up with her friends, she had called CPS and made a false report to cover herself, so that if anyone asked why her kids had been with me for weeks, she could say I had taken them. She was setting me up. The crack inside me didn't just grow wider, it shattered completely. And what emerged was something Brittany never expected. A woman who was done being invisible. A woman who was ready to fight. A woman who had evidence. A woman who had a lawyer. A woman who had nothing left to lose. I looked at Sarah Chen and said very calmly, "I think you need to see something." Before we continue, please comment below, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel to help us hit that big 1,000 subscriber milestone. I drove home with Miss Geneva following behind me in her car, the kids safely buckled in with her. Sarah Chen from CPS followed in her own vehicle. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles hurt, but my mind was crystal clear. For the first time in 2 years, I knew exactly what I needed to do. When we got to my house, Miss Geneva took the children to the backyard to play, while Sarah Chen sat at my kitchen table. I made her sweet tea, that's just how I was raised, and then I placed the 2-inch thick folder in front of her. "This is everything," I said. "Every text message, every lie, every time she used me, every dollar I spent, it's all documented." Sarah Chen opened the folder slowly. Her professional mask started cracking as she read. Page after page, screenshot after screenshot. The calendar showing 173 days. The bank statements showing $4,000 spent. The texts where Brittany said emergency, while her social media showed parties and shopping trips. "Mrs. Mitchell," Sarah Chen said after 20 minutes. "How long have you been keeping these records?" "I just started organizing them last week, but the texts and photos go back months, some even longer." She pulled out her phone and started taking photos of certain pages. "Do you have the original text messages still on your phone?" "Every single one. I never delete anything." Sarah Chen sat back in her chair and let out a long breath. "Mrs. Mitchell, I need to be very clear with you. The report we received painted a very different picture. The caller claimed you were unstable, that you had essentially kidnapped these children, and that their mother was frantic with worry." "The mother is in Dubai," I said flatly. "She's been there for 12 days. She drops them off for weeks at a time and doesn't call to check on them. She's posted 47 photos on social media since she left. But she hasn't called her children once." "I can see that now." Sarah Chen closed the folder. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm going to be honest. This case just flipped completely. What started as a wellness check on the children has become something else entirely. You're not neglecting these children. You're the only one taking care of them." Tears burned my eyes, but I didn't let them fall. "So what happens now?" "Now I document what I've found. I'm going to note that the children are clean, fed, happy, and well cared for. I'm going to note that you have extensive evidence of being their primary caregiver with no compensation or support. And I'm going to note that someone made a false report to CPS, which is a crime. Will you tell them it was their mother who called?" Sarah Chen looked me in the eye. The call came from an international number. Dubai area code. "So yes, Mrs. Mitchell, I know exactly who called, and so will my supervisor." After Sarah Chen left, I sat in my kitchen and cried. Not sad tears, angry tears, relieved tears, tired tears, all mixed together until I didn't know which was which. Miss Geneva came in from the backyard and wrapped me in a hug that smelled like cocoa butter and baby powder. "Let it out, baby. Let it all out." She tried to make me look like a criminal, Geneva. She tried to make it look like I stole her babies. "I know, honey, but God don't like ugly, and the truth always comes to light. You did the right thing keeping those records." That night, after I put the kids to bed, I called attorney Jerome Washington and told him everything. He was quiet for a long time. "Mrs. Mitchell, this changes things. Filing a false CPS report is serious. It's considered making a false statement to law enforcement. We can use this." "Use it for what?" "To protect you, to set legal boundaries, to ensure this pattern stops. I'm going to file something tomorrow. With your permission, I want to file for grandparents' rights and establish a formal custody agreement. I also want to send your daughter-in-law a cease and desist letter regarding the exploitation and the false report." My stomach twisted. Won't that make everything worse? Marcus will be so angry. "Mrs. Mitchell, I need you to hear something. Your son is already angry, or he wouldn't allow his wife to treat you this way. The question is, are you willing to keep suffering to avoid that anger? Or are you ready to stand up for yourself?" I thought about Zion's gap-toothed smile, Amara singing gospel songs, baby Elijah reaching for me. I thought about the woman I used to be, the nurse who worked double shifts, who raised a son alone, who survived losing her husband and kept going. "File everything," I said. "Do what you need to do." The next 3 days were quiet, too quiet. Brittany's social media went dark. No more photos, no more posts. Marcus didn't call. Then on day 15, my phone rang at 6 a.m. It was Marcus, and he was furious. "Mama, what did you do?" he shouted before I could even say hello. "Brittany got served with legal papers in the middle of the Dubai airport. She's crying, she's devastated, and it's all because of you." I took a deep breath. "Marcus, baby, I need you to listen." "No, you listen. How could you do this to our family? Brittany has been nothing but good to you, and you repay her by dragging her to court? By accusing her of... He couldn't even say it. Of filing a false CPS report? Because she did, Marcus. She called CPS and lied about me while she was in Dubai. She told them I kidnapped your children." Silence. Then, "She wouldn't do that." "She did. CPS has the phone records. International call from Dubai. Your wife tried to make me look like a criminal, Marcus." "There must be some mistake. Maybe someone else—" "Marcus!" My voice cracked like thunder. "Wake up! Your wife has been using me for 2 years. She drops your children off for weeks at a time without asking. She lies about where she is. She hasn't given me a dime for food, diapers, or clothes. I've spent over $4,000 taking care of your children. And when I finally stood up for myself, she tried to destroy me." "You're exaggerating. Brittany said you offered to help. She said you loved watching the kids." "I do love watching my grandbabies. But love doesn't mean I should be disrespected. It doesn't mean she gets to lie to me, use me, and then try to ruin my life when I finally say enough." "Mama, you're tearing this family apart!" And there it was. The thing I'd been most afraid of hearing. But now that I heard it, I realized something. I wasn't the one tearing anything apart. I was just the one refusing to hold it together with my own blood anymore. "No, son. Your wife tore this family apart the moment she decided I was worth nothing. I'm just done pretending the tears aren't showing. You have a choice to make, Marcus. You can believe your mama who raised you and never lied to you once in your whole life. Or you can believe a woman who just got caught making a false report to CPS. But you need to choose." He hung up on me. I stood there holding the phone, and for the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. 2 days later, on day 17 of 21, Brittany came home early from Dubai. She showed up at my house at 8 p.m. without warning, banging on my door so hard I thought she would break it. The kids were in their pajamas watching a movie before bed. I opened the door, and there she stood. Her hair was different. She'd gotten braids in Dubai, long and expensive looking. Her nails were freshly done. She was wearing designer everything. But her face was twisted with rage. "Where are my children?" she demanded, pushing past me into my house. "They're right here. They're fine. What are you—" "Get their things. They're leaving. Now." The kids heard her voice and came running. "Mama!" Zion shouted, excited. But Brittany didn't hug them, didn't kiss them, didn't ask how they were. She just started grabbing their toys and stuffing them into the small duffel bag she'd left 17 days ago. "Brittany, slow down. Can we talk about— talk?" She spun around, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Pure hatred. "You want to talk? After you had me served with legal papers in another country? After you tried to take my kids away from me? After you made CPS think I'm a bad mother? You called CPS on me first. You lied and said I kidnapped them. Her face flickered, just for a second. Guilt. But then it hardened again. I was protecting my children. You were acting crazy, keeping them for weeks, spending all this money on them like you were trying to replace me. Replace you? Brittany, you left them with me. You didn't call them once in 17 days. I was on vacation. I deserved a break. And I deserved to be asked. I deserved respect. You deserve nothing, Brittany screamed it so loud that baby Elijah started crying. You're just the grandmother. You don't get to make demands. You don't get to set rules. Your job is to help when we need you and be grateful we let you see your grandkids at all. The room went silent except for Elijah's crying. Even Zion and Amara stood frozen, their eyes wide with confusion and fear. I looked at this woman, this person I had welcomed into my family, this person I had helped, loved, supported, and I saw her clearly for the first time. She wasn't stressed. She wasn't overwhelmed. She was entitled. She was selfish. And she genuinely believed I existed only to serve her. Get out of my house, I said quietly. Excuse me? You heard me. Get out of my house. You're not taking the kids tonight. Not like this. Not when you're acting like this in front of them. Brittany laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You can't keep them from me. I'm their mother. And I'm calling the police if you don't leave. You just screamed at me in front of children, you're acting erratically, and you haven't seen these kids in over 2 weeks. You can come back tomorrow when you're calm with Marcus, and we can do this properly. But right now, you need to leave. You're bluffing. I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911. Brittany's eyes went wide. For just a moment, the mask cracked, and I saw fear. She grabbed her designer purse and headed for the door, then turned back one more time. You're going to regret this, Lorraine. I'm going to make sure you never see these kids again. I'm going to tell everyone what you did. I'm going to destroy you. You already tried that, I said. It didn't work. She slammed the door so hard a picture fell off my wall. I scooped up Elijah and held him close, rocking him until he stopped crying. Zion and Amara came and wrapped their arms around my legs, holding on tight. Grandma, why is Mama so mad? Amara whispered. I kissed the top of her head. Sometimes grown-ups forget how to be kind, baby. But it's going to be okay. I didn't know if that was true, but I needed them to believe it. That night, after the kids finally fell asleep, I sat on my couch with Miss Geneva and Attorney Washington, who had rushed over when I called him. I told them everything that happened. She threatened you in front of the children, Jerome said, taking notes. That's important. Did you record any of it? No, I didn't think to. Actually, Miss Geneva interrupted, pulling out her phone with a sly smile. I did. I was walking up to the house to bring you some dinner when I heard the yelling. I started recording through the window. Got the whole thing. Jerome's eyebrows shot up. Miss Geneva, you might have just saved this case. Over the next 2 days, things escalated fast. Brittany didn't come back with Marcus. Instead, she got her own lawyer and filed an emergency motion to prevent me from seeing the children at all. She claimed I was unstable, that I had kept her children from her, that I had threatened her. But we had evidence. We had my documentation. We had the CPS report clearing me and noting the false complaint. We had Miss Geneva's recording. We had text messages, social media posts, bank statements. We had everything. The court hearing was set for 3 days away. In the meantime, Marcus finally came to see me. He showed up alone, looking tired and confused. I let him in and we sat in my living room, the same room where I'd rocked him to sleep as a baby, where I'd helped him with homework, where I'd talked him through his first heartbreak. Mama, he said, his voice breaking. I don't understand what's happening. This family is falling apart, and I don't know how to fix it. Then let me explain it to you, baby. Let me show you everything. And I did. I showed him every text message, every receipt, every lie, The CPS report. The recording of Brittany screaming at me, all of it. I watched my son's face change as he realized what had been happening. The denial. The shock. The anger. The grief. "She told me you were being difficult," he whispered. "She said you were trying to take over. She made it sound like you were the problem." "I know, baby. Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried. You didn't want to hear it." He put his head in his hands. "What do I do now, Mama? She's my wife. But you're my mother, and I can't." "You choose what's right, Marcus. Not what's easy. What's right." He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "I'm scared. I already know what that is." The night before the court hearing, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that led to this moment. All the times I said yes when I should have said no, May. All the times I accepted crumbs and called it love. All the times I made myself smaller so someone else could feel bigger. But I also thought about my grandbabies, about the life I wanted them to see modeled. Did I want them to grow up thinking it was okay to use people? Or did I want them to see their grandmother stand up for herself with dignity and grace? At 3 a.m., I got up and put on my best church dress, navy blue with pearl buttons, the one Jerome bought me for our 25th anniversary. I did my hair and my makeup. I looked in the mirror and saw Lorraine Mitchell. Not somebody's grandmother, not somebody's mother-in-law, just Lorraine. A woman who survived, who persevered, who loved hard, but refused to be destroyed by that love. The courthouse was downtown, a big imposing building with marble floors and high ceilings. Attorney Washington met me outside, looking sharp in his suit. Miss Geneva came too, wearing her Sunday best and carrying her purse like a weapon. "You ready?" Jerome asked. "I've been ready," I said. We walked in together, and that's when I saw them. My church family, 30 people from First Baptist, dressed in their finest, sitting in the courtroom gallery. Pastor Williams gave me a nod. Sister Jackson squeezed my hand. Brother Thompson whispered, "We got you, Sister Lorraine." I had to bite my lip to keep from crying. Brittany sat on the other side with her lawyer, a slick-looking man in an expensive suit. She looked perfect. Hair done, makeup done, designer dress. She looked like the victim she was pretending to be. Marcus sat in the back, alone. He caught my eye and I couldn't read his expression. The judge was a black woman in her 50s named Judge Patricia Harrison. She had kind eyes but a no-nonsense way about her. She called the courtroom to order and looked at both sides. "I've reviewed the motions filed by both parties," she said. "Mrs. Coleman, your attorney claims Mrs. Mitchell has been keeping your children from you and acting in an unstable manner. Mrs. Mitchell, your attorney claims you've been exploited and that Mrs. Coleman filed a false report with CPS. This is quite a mess. Let's start with Mrs. Coleman. Tell me what happened." Brittany's lawyer stood up smooth and confident. "Your Honor, my client is a loving mother who left her children with her grandmother for what was supposed to be a short vacation. When she tried to get her children back, Mrs. Mitchell refused. She's been manipulating the situation, spending excessive money to make herself look like the primary caregiver, and she's turned the children against their mother." Judge Harrison looked at me. "Mrs. Mitchell, your response?" Attorney Washington stood. "Your Honor, we have extensive documentation that tells a very different story. With your permission, I'd like to present evidence." For the next hour, Jerome walked the judge through everything. The texts, the calendar, the bank statements, the social media posts showing Brittany lying about emergencies, the CPS report and the phone records showing she'd called from Dubai, Miss Geneva's recording of Brittany screaming threats at me in front of the children. I watched Brittany's face go from confident to nervous to panicked. Her lawyer kept trying to object, but Judge Harrison shut him down every time. "I want to hear the recording," the judge said. When Brittany's voice filled the courtroom, "You deserve nothing. You're just the grandmother." I saw several people in the gallery shake their heads. I saw Marcus close his eyes like he couldn't bear to hear it. After the recording ended, Judge Harrison looked at Brittany for a long moment. Mrs. Coleman, did you call Child Protective Services and file a report about Mrs. Mitchell while you were in Dubai? Brittany's lawyer whispered something to her. She lifted her chin. I was concerned about my children, Your Honor. I thought, yes or no, Mrs. Coleman. Did you file the report? Yes. And were you aware that the report was false? Silence. Mrs. Coleman, I asked you a question. I was upset. I thought she was trying to take my kids. Judge Harrison leaned forward. Because she was taking care of them while you were on vacation in Dubai? Because she was feeding them, clothing them, loving them while you posted 47 photos on social media and didn't call them once? I deserved a break. Everyone deserves a break, Mrs. Coleman. But you don't get to use people and then destroy them when they finally set boundaries. You don't get to call CPS with false reports. Do you understand that what you did is a crime? Brittany's face went pale. Judge Harrison turned to me. Mrs. Mitchell, stand up, please. I stood, my legs shaking. Mrs. Mitchell, I want to commend you for the care you've shown your grandchildren. I also want to apologize on behalf of the system for what you endured with CPS. The report has been noted as false and appropriate actions will be taken. Now, let me be clear about something. You have legal rights as a grandparent, but I'm not here to take children away from their mother unless absolutely necessary. What I am here to do is make sure this exploitation stops. Immediately. She turned back to Brittany. Mrs. Coleman, here is my ruling. Mrs. Mitchell is awarded formal grandparent visitation rights, 1 weekend per month, minimum. She is to be compensated at a rate of $25 per hour for any additional babysitting she chooses to provide. She will be reimbursed for all reasonable expenses related to the children's care. And if you ever file another false report or attempt to keep these children from their grandmother out of spite, I will hold you in contempt and we will revisit custody arrangements. Am I making myself clear? Brittany nodded, tears streaming down her face. But they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage. Judge Harrison wasn't finished. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office regarding the false CPS report. Mrs. Coleman, you may face criminal charges. That's not my decision, but be prepared for that possibility. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Brittany's lawyer tried to say something, but the judge banged her gavel. We're adjourned. Mrs. Mitchell, go home and rest. You've earned it. As I walked out of the courtroom, surrounded by my church family, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. I felt like myself again. But as we reached the courthouse steps, I heard someone call my name. I turned to see Marcus running toward me. His face was streaked with tears. Mama, wait! Please wait! I stopped. Miss Geneva and Jerome stood close. Protective. Marcus reached me, breathless. Mama, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I heard everything in there and I didn't know. I should have known. I should have protected you. I failed you. My baby boy. My son. He was hurting and confused and I wanted to comfort him. But I also needed him to understand. Marcus, I love you more than my own life. But love without respect is just pain with a prettier name. You chose to believe her lies over my truth. You chose to ignore what was happening because it was easier than dealing with it. That hurt more than anything Brittany did. I know, and I'm so sorry. Mama, I'm leaving her. I can't stay married to someone who would do this to you. I'm filing for divorce. I reached up and touched his face. That's your choice to make, baby. But don't do it for me. Do it because you deserve better. Those kids deserve better. Don't stay in something broken just because you're scared of what comes next. He hugged me then, sobbing into my shoulder like he did when he was little. And I held him because that's what mothers do. We hold on even when we've been hurt. But this time, I was holding on without losing myself. As we stood there on those courthouse steps, I didn't know what would happen next. I didn't know if Marcus would really leave Brittany or if he'd try to fix things. I didn't know if she'd face criminal charges or find a way out of it. But I knew one thing for certain. I had stood up. I had fought back. I had proven that being kind doesn't mean being weak. And I had won. That night, as I sat in my quiet house for the first time in 21 days, I got a text message from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "This isn't over, Lorraine. You took everything from me. Now I'm going to take everything from you, starting with Marcus. And those kids you love so much, you'll never see them again. I promise you that." My blood ran cold. I called Jerome immediately. "She's threatening you," he said grimly. "Save that message. This just got worse before it got better." And as I sat there in the darkness, I realized something. The court battle was over, but the real war was just beginning. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in my house made me jump. Every car that drove past made me look out the window. That text message sat on my phone like a burning coal, and no matter how many times I read it, the threat felt just as real. You'll never see them again. I promise you that. At 6 a.m, I finally gave up on sleep and made myself some coffee. I was sitting at my kitchen table when I heard a knock at the door. My heart jumped into my throat, but when I looked through the peephole, I saw Marcus standing there with all 3 kids. I opened the door fast. "Marcus, what are you— It's Sunday morning. What's going on?" He looked terrible. His eyes were red and puffy like he'd been crying all night. Zion, Amara, and baby Elijah were still in their pajamas, carrying overnight bags. "Can we come in, Mama, please?" I stepped aside and they all came in. The kids ran to me for hugs, and I held them tight, breathing in their familiar smell of baby shampoo and innocence. Marcus stood in my living room, looking lost. "I left, Mama. Last night after the court hearing, Brittany went crazy. She was screaming, throwing things, saying terrible things about you in front of the kids. Zion started crying. Amara was scared. I packed up the kids and left. We stayed at a hotel last night, but I didn't know where else to go." I pulled him into a hug. "You did the right thing, baby. You and the kids are safe here." "She sent you a text, didn't she? A threatening one?" "How did you know?" "Because she sent me about 50, saying if I didn't come back, she'd destroy both of us. She'd take the kids and disappear. She'd ruin my career. Mama, I think she's having some kind of breakdown." I showed him the text. His face went pale. "We need to call the police." "I already called Attorney Washington. He said to save everything and document it all. Marcus, baby, I need to ask you something. Are you leaving her? For real this time?" He nodded, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I can't go back. Not after what I heard in that courtroom. Not after realizing how she's been treating you, how she's been manipulating me. I feel like I've been living with a stranger. The woman I married wouldn't do these things. Or maybe this is who she always was and I just didn't want to see it." The kids were in the living room playing with toys I kept at my house. They seemed happy, oblivious to the storm raging around them. I wanted to keep it that way for as long as possible. That afternoon, Miss Geneva came over with her nephew Jerome. We all sat around my kitchen table while Marcus told them everything that had happened the night before. "She destroyed the house," Marcus said quietly. "Broke dishes, threw furniture around. She was screaming that you ruined her life, Mama, that you turned me against her, that you were trying to steal her family. I tried to calm her down, but she just got worse. That's when I grabbed the kids and left." Jerome was taking notes. "Marcus, I need you to file a police report about the property destruction and the threatening behavior. We also need to forward that text message to the police. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm filing for a restraining order first thing tomorrow morning." "A restraining order?" I felt sick. "Against my daughter-in-law?" "She threatened you, Mrs. Mitchell, after losing in court, after filing a false CPS report. She's escalating and we need to protect you." The next 2 days were a blur. Marcus filed a police report. Jerome filed for a restraining order. I got a temporary one approved within 24 hours that said Brittany couldn't come within 500 feet of me or contact me in any way. The kids stayed with me, but now it felt different. Now it felt like I was protecting them, not just babysitting them. On the third day after the court hearing, things got worse. I was at the grocery store with Amara when my phone rang. It was the principal of Zion's school. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Principal Davis. We have a situation here. Zion's mother just showed up trying to take him out of school. We wouldn't release him to her because your son Marcus called this morning and said she doesn't have permission, but she's refusing to leave and she's causing quite a disturbance." My blood went cold. "I'm on my way. Please call the police." I called Marcus immediately while I drove. He was already heading to the school. I called Jerome. He said he'd meet us there. When I pulled into the school parking lot, I saw police cars. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. I grabbed Amara's hand and we rushed inside. The scene in the school office was chaos. Brittany was there, screaming at the principal, at the school secretary, at the 2 police officers who were trying to calm her down. Her hair was messy, her clothes were wrinkled. She looked nothing like the polished woman who'd stood in the courtroom 3 days ago. "Those are my children," she was screaming. "You can't keep them from me. She poisoned my husband against me. She destroyed my family. I want my kids back." One of the officers saw me come in. "Are you Lorraine Mitchell?" "Yes, sir." "Ma'am, do you have a restraining order against this woman?" I pulled out the court papers. He read them and then turned to Brittany with a serious expression. "Ma'am, you're violating a restraining order. You need to leave this property immediately or you'll be arrested." "I'm not leaving without my son." "Ma'am, no, you don't understand. She did this. That old woman right there." Brittany pointed at me, her finger shaking. "She turned everyone against me. She made me look like a bad mother. Everything I did was for my family, and she destroyed it all." Marcus arrived then, rushing through the door. When Brittany saw him, something in her face changed. It went from rage to something that looked almost like hope. "Marcus, baby, please, tell them. Tell them I'm a good mother. Tell them this is all a mistake." Marcus looked at her, and I saw something break in his eyes. Maybe it was the last piece of whatever love he'd had for her. "Brittany, you need help. Professional help. But I can't give it to you. And you can't see the kids right now. Not like this." She let out a sound that wasn't quite a scream and wasn't quite a sob. "You're choosing her over me? Your mother over your wife?" "I'm choosing what's right, Brittany. What's safe. What's healthy for our children." The officers moved toward her. "Ma'am, you need to come with us now." "No, no, please. Marcus, don't let them—" They put handcuffs on her, gently but firmly. And as they led her out of the school office, she looked back at me with such hatred in her eyes that I actually stepped backward. "This is your fault," she screamed. "All of it. I hope you're happy, Lorraine. I hope destroying my life makes you feel like the big important woman you think you are." And then she was gone. The police took her away. The office went quiet except for the sound of Amara crying into my dress and the secretary's shaky breathing. Principal Davis touched my arm gently. "Mrs. Mitchell, I'm so sorry you had to witness that. We've already called the district office to file a report. Zion is safe in his classroom. His teacher kept him there during all of this so he wouldn't see." Thank God for small mercies. That night, after the kids were finally in bed, Marcus and I sat in my living room. Jerome was there too, along with Miss Geneva and Pastor Williams, who'd heard what happened and came right over. "She was arrested for violating the restraining order and for trespassing," Jerome explained. "She's being held until her arraignment tomorrow. Marcus, they're going to ask if you want to press charges." Marcus put his head in his hands. "She's the mother of my children. How did we get here?" Pastor Williams spoke up, his voice gentle but firm. "Son, sometimes people show us who they really are, and we have to believe them. Your wife, your soon-to-be ex-wife, needs help that you can't give her. What you can do is protect your children and your mother. That's your job now. I just feel like I failed everyone. I failed Mama by not seeing what was happening. I failed my kids by not protecting them sooner. I even failed Brittany by not getting her help before it came to this. I reached over and took my son's hand. Marcus, baby, you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. Brittany made her choices. Every lie, every manipulation, every mean thing she did, those were her choices. You didn't make her that way, and you couldn't have fixed her. Your mama's right, Miss Geneva added. That girl's problems run deep, deeper than you could reach. What matters now is what you do going forward. The arraignment the next day was painful to watch. Brittany stood before a judge in an orange jumpsuit, looking small and broken. Her parents were there. I'd never met them before, but they looked devastated. Her mother was crying. The prosecutor laid out the charges: violating a restraining order, trespassing, creating a disturbance at a school. They also mentioned that the district attorney was still reviewing the false CPS report and deciding whether to press charges for that. Brittany's lawyer argued that she was under extreme emotional stress, that she'd just lost a court case and her marriage was falling apart. He asked for leniency. The judge wasn't buying it. Ms. Coleman, you violated a court order less than 72 hours after it was issued. You went to a school and tried to take a child in violation of custody agreements. You created a dangerous situation. I'm setting bail at $15,000, and you are ordered to have no contact with Mrs. Mitchell, the children, or the school. You will also undergo a psychiatric evaluation. If you violate these conditions even once, you will go directly to jail. Do you understand? Brittany nodded, tears streaming down her face. Her parents posted bail that afternoon. Jerome made sure I knew the moment she was released, so I could be extra cautious. The restraining order was extended for 6 months. Over the next week, things started to settle into a new normal. Marcus filed for divorce. He filed for full custody of the kids with supervised visitation for Brittany once she completed the required psychiatric evaluation and anger management classes. The judge agreed. My house became headquarters. Marcus stayed in my spare room. The kids were there every day. It was chaos. Toy everywhere, noise, laughter, crying, homework, bedtime stories, all of it. But it was good chaos. Family chaos. Miss Geneva helped me set up a proper schedule. Pastor Williams organized people from church to bring meals 3 times a week so I wasn't cooking for 5 people every night. Sister Jackson taught me how to set up a spreadsheet to track everything: custody schedules, expenses, appointments. My church family rallied around us like soldiers protecting their own. 2 weeks after Brittany's arrest, I got a call from Sarah Chen from CPS. Mrs. Mitchell, I wanted to give you an update. The district attorney has decided to press charges against Brittany Coleman for filing a false report. It's a misdemeanor, but it'll be on her record. I also wanted you to know that your case has been closed with a notation that you're an exemplary caregiver. If you ever need a reference for anything, you can use me. Thank you, Sarah. That means more than you know. Mrs. Mitchell, I see a lot of cases in this job. Some are complicated, some are heartbreaking, but some are just clear. There's a good person being taken advantage of. You're one of the good ones. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise. After I hung up, I cried. But they were good tears this time. A month after the courtroom drama, Marcus and I sat on my back porch while the kids played in the yard. It was a beautiful Saturday afternoon. The sun was shining. Birds were singing. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt peace. Mama, Marcus said quietly, I need to thank you. For what, baby? For standing up, for fighting back. If you hadn't done that, I don't know where we'd be right now. Probably still living in that toxic situation, teaching my kids that it's okay to treat people like garbage as long as they're family. You would have figured it out eventually. Maybe. But it might have been too late. He looked at his children playing, Zion pushing Amara on the swing, baby Elijah toddling around chasing butterflies. I want them to grow up knowing their grandmother is strong, that she doesn't take disrespect from anyone, that she loves them enough to fight for them, even when it's hard. I squeezed his hand. I want them to grow up knowing they're loved, really loved, not used, not manipulated, just loved for who they are. They'll know, because you're showing them every single day. The divorce took 6 months to finalize. Brittany fought it at first, but eventually her lawyer convinced her it was better to settle than to drag it out. Marcus got full custody. Brittany got supervised visitation every other weekend, but she had to complete therapy and anger management first. To everyone's surprise, she actually did it. She went to therapy. She took the classes. She did the psychiatric evaluation, which diagnosed her with narcissistic personality disorder and some unresolved trauma from her own childhood. She started taking medication. I didn't forgive her, not right away anyway. The hurt was too deep, the betrayal was too fresh, but I watched her slowly start to change during those supervised visits with the kids. She was calmer, more present, actually listening to them instead of just talking at them. One day, about 8 months after everything exploded, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Brittany. My first instinct was to throw it away, but something made me open it. Dear Lorraine, I know this letter doesn't fix anything. I know I hurt you in ways that can't be repaired, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. For 2 years, I treated you like you were worthless, like you only existed to make my life easier. I took advantage of your love for your grandchildren. I lied to you. I disrespected you. And when you finally stood up for yourself, I tried to destroy you. I'm in therapy now, working through why I did those things, why I felt so entitled to your time and your money and your energy. My therapist says I have a lot of unresolved issues with my own mother, and I was projecting that onto you. She says I saw your kindness as weakness and your boundaries as betrayal. That's not an excuse. It's just an explanation. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. But I want you to know that you did the right thing. You stood up for yourself, and it probably saved my life. I was spiraling, and I didn't even see it. You holding up that mirror, even though I hated it at the time, made me face who I was becoming. The kids are lucky to have you. Marcus is lucky to have you. And I was lucky to have you, even though I didn't appreciate it. I hope one day I can be the kind of mother and person who deserves to be in your life. But until then, thank you. Thank you for loving my children even when I made it impossible. Thank you for standing up even when it would have been easier to stay silent. Brittany. I read that letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to respond. Maybe I never would be. But it was a start. A year after the court battle, my life looked completely different. Marcus and the kids had moved into a house just 10 minutes away from me, close enough to visit all the time, far enough that I had my own space. The kids came over every weekend, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. We baked cookies, we watched movies, we went to the park, we did all the grandmother things I'd always wanted to do, but this time it was on my terms. I started going back to my water aerobics class. I rejoined my book club at church. I took a trip to Atlanta to visit my sisters and stayed for a whole week without feeling guilty. I remembered what it felt like to be Lorraine Mitchell, not just somebody's grandmother or somebody's mother-in-law. Miss Geneva and I started a support group at our church for grandparents who were being taken advantage of by their families. We met every Tuesday night. The stories I heard broke my heart. So many people suffering in silence, afraid to speak up because they didn't want to lose access to their grandchildren. We called it the Boundary Brigade. We taught people how to document everything, how to set healthy limits, how to love their families without losing themselves. Attorney Jerome Washington came and spoke about legal rights. Pastor Williams talked about spiritual boundaries. It grew from 5 people to 30 in just 3 months. One evening after our meeting, a woman named Dorothy came up to me with tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "My daughter has been treating me the way yours treated you. I thought I was alone. I thought I was crazy. But hearing your story, you gave me permission to stand up for myself." That's when I knew. All the pain, all the heartbreak, all the court battles, they weren't just about me. They were about every grandmother, every parent, every person who'd been taught that love meant accepting disrespect. Brittany completed her therapy and her anger management. She got approved for unsupervised visitation with the kids. Marcus was cautious, but he gave her a chance. The kids still lived with him, but they saw their mother regularly. And slowly, very slowly, she started to show up as a better version of herself. She and I weren't friends. We probably never would be. But we were civil. We could be in the same room at Zion's school play or Amara's dance recital without World War III breaking out. That was progress. One Sunday afternoon, almost 2 years after everything happened, I was sitting in my living room reading a book when there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Brittany standing there, looking nervous. "Hi, Lorraine. I know I don't have the kids this weekend, but I wanted to talk to you. Is that okay?" I almost said no, but something in her face made me step aside and let her in. We sat in my living room, the same room where she'd screamed at me that I was just the grandmother. But this time she sat with her hands folded in her lap, her voice quiet and genuine. "I wanted to say thank you," she said. I raised my eyebrows. "For what?" "For not letting me destroy you, for being strong enough to fight back. My therapist says that moment when you stood up to me was the best thing that could have happened. It stopped me from continuing down a really dark path." "I didn't do it for you, Brittany. I did it for me." "I know. That's what makes it so powerful." She took a deep breath. "I also wanted to ask if maybe someday we could try to rebuild some kind of relationship. Not like before. Something new, something healthier. I know I don't deserve it, but..." "You're right. You don't deserve it." I let that sit for a moment. "But maybe we can earn it, both of us, one day at a time." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'd like that." After she left, I sat on my porch and looked out at my neighborhood, at the life I'd built, the life I'd almost lost, the life I'd fought for. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus with a photo attached. The kids were at his house, making a card. The card said, "We love you, Grandma," in Zion's messy handwriting, with drawings from Amara and what looked like Elijah's handprint in paint. The text from Marcus said, "They wanted to make this for you just because. No special occasion. They just love you." Just because they love me. Not because they need something. Not because they want me to babysit. Just because. I looked at that photo, and I realized something important. I had won. Not just the court case. Not just the battle with Brittany. I had won my life back. I had won my dignity. I had won the right to be loved without being used, and that was worth every hard moment. That evening, Pastor Williams called me. "Sister Lorraine, I just got off the phone with a grandmother from across town. She heard about the Boundary Brigade and wants to know if she can come. She's been raising her grandkids for 5 years while their mother comes and goes. She's exhausted and broke and doesn't know how to set limits. I told her about you. I told her your story." She started crying and said, "You mean I'm not the only one?" My heart ached for this woman I'd never met. "Tell her to come Tuesday. We'll help her." "I will. You know what you've done, Lorraine? You've given people permission to take care of themselves. That's a powerful gift." After we hung up, I thought about that. Permission to take care of yourself. How many of us need that permission? How many of us have been taught that selflessness means self-destruction? I had learned the hard way that you can't pour from an empty cup, that loving someone doesn't mean letting them abuse you, that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. 3 years after everything happened, I was at Zion's 10th birthday party. Marcus had rented out a space at the community center. The whole family was there. My sisters from Atlanta, Miss Geneva and her family, people from church, Marcus's friends, even some of the families from the Boundary Brigade. Brittany was there too, helping set up decorations. She was dating someone new, a man who seemed kind and patient. She'd gotten a job as a receptionist at a dental office. She was rebuilding her life, one day at a time. The kids were running around, happy and healthy. Zion was getting so tall. Amara was in 4th grade now, still singing gospel songs and loving every minute of it. Elijah was 4 years old and talking nonstop about dinosaurs and superheroes. As I watched them play, Marcus came and stood next to me. "You did good, Mama," he said quietly. "We did good, baby. Together." "No, I mean it. You saved us. All of us. Even Brittany, in a weird way. You showed us what real strength looks like." I turned to look at my son. This good man, this loving father. "I'm proud of you, Marcus, for making the hard choices, for protecting your kids, for giving Brittany a chance to grow without sacrificing your boundaries. You've become everything I hoped you'd be." He hugged me tight. "I learned from the best." As the party went on, I found myself talking to a woman I didn't recognize. She introduced herself as Angela, one of the new members of the Boundary Brigade. "You're Lorraine?" she asked, her eyes wide. "The Lorraine? Oh my God, I've wanted to meet you. Your story changed my life." "What happened?" I asked. "My son and his wife were doing the same thing to me, dropping off their kids whenever they wanted, never asking, never saying thank you. I was exhausted and broke, and I thought that's just what grandmothers do. But then I heard your story at the meeting last month, and I realized I don't have to live like this. I can set boundaries and still love my grandkids." "What did you do?" I told them no. For the first time in 3 years, I said no. I told them I'd be happy to watch the kids 2 days a week, but they need to ask in advance and provide everything the kids need. Do you know what happened? What? They got mad at first. Real mad. Stopped talking to me for 2 weeks. But then they came back and apologized. They said they didn't realize how much they were asking of me. Now we have a schedule. They ask before dropping the kids off, and they even give me gas money. It's not perfect, but it's so much better. She grabbed my hands. "Thank you, Lorraine. Thank you for showing us that we matter too, that our time and our energy and our money are valuable, that we can love our families without losing ourselves." I hugged this stranger who didn't feel like a stranger at all. "You did the hard work, Angela. I just showed you it was possible. Sometimes that's all we need, someone to show us it's possible." As the sun started to set and the party wound down, I helped clean up. Zion came over and hugged me around the waist. "Grandma, this was the best birthday ever." "I'm glad, baby. Did you have fun?" "Yeah. And Grandma, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you stood up for yourself. Dad told me about it. Not all of it, but some. He said you were brave." My eyes filled with tears. "Your dad's pretty brave too." "I know. He said I should always treat people with respect, especially you. He said you're the strongest person he knows." I kissed the top of his head, breathing in the smell of birthday cake and little boy sweat. "You remember that, baby. Remember that real strength isn't about being loud or being mean. It's about knowing your worth and not letting anyone take it away." "I'll remember, Grandma. Promise." That night, after everyone had gone home and my house was quiet again, I sat on my back porch with a cup of tea. The stars were out, bright and clear. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear kids playing, music from a neighbor's house, the sounds of life happening all around me. I thought about the woman I was 3 years ago, tired, used, invisible, convinced that love meant accepting whatever people gave me, even if what they gave me was pain. And I thought about the woman I was now. Rested, respected, visible. Understanding that love means accepting what honors your dignity and walking away from what doesn't. The journey had been hard. There were moments I wanted to give up. Moments I questioned whether I was doing the right thing. Moments I wondered if standing up for myself was worth losing my family. But I hadn't lost my family. I'd saved it. I'd taught my son what real love looks like. I'd showed my grandchildren that kindness and boundaries can coexist. I'd even given Brittany a chance to become a better person. And maybe most importantly, I'd given myself back to me. My phone buzzed one last time that night. It was a text from Miss Geneva. "Proud of you, sis. Look how far you've come. Look how many lives you've changed. Your story matters. You matter." I texted back. "We matter. All of us. That's the whole point." Because that's what I'd learned through all of this. We teach people how to treat us. And sometimes teaching them requires us to walk away, to set boundaries, to stand up even when our knees are shaking and our hearts are breaking. Love should never cost you your dignity. Family should never cost you your peace. Kindness should never cost you your self-respect. And if anyone tries to take those things from you, you fight back, not with hatred, not with revenge, but with truth, with evidence, with boundaries, and with the quiet strength that says, "I deserve better. I deserved better, and so I demanded it, and my life was transformed because of it." As I sat there under the stars, I whispered a prayer of gratitude for my strength, for my family, for Miss Geneva and Attorney Washington and Pastor Williams and all the people who stood by me, for the courage to stand up, for the wisdom to fight smart, for the grace to heal, and for the understanding that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to be treated with anything less than respect. I was Lorraine Mitchell. I was a retired nurse, a widow, a mother, a grandmother, a survivor, a fighter, a woman who knew her worth, and I was finally, beautifully, peacefully free. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.